Welcome back to the Takeout. President Trump, you've heard this, criticized and even ordered an investigation into how former President Biden used the Autopen, specifically about pardons, but there are other matters related to it. President Trump, calls it one of the biggest scandals in American history. Not sure that's a fair assessment, and here to talk to us about this, not to give us an answer to that question, but to explain how the Autopen works, Jack Schock. He had the authority to wield the Autopen for about a year during President Clinton's administration. He was the director then for about a year, presidential letters and messages. Jack, I'm glad you're with us. Thanks for joining us. How does the Autopen work?
Thank you. Okay, well, the Autopen works. It's very simple, actually. So the process itself, it looks a bit like a drawing table or a tilted architecture board with the signature etched in the glass on it. And so when it was time to use the Autopen, much like that you're seeing right now, but actually a little more low tech. And then the pen would come out and literally sign his name like it's doing right now, dot the I and cross the T.
Are there any do's and don'ts?
Sure, there were do's and don'ts for everything. Do's and don'ts were, we used to say it's the second most guarded room in the White House. Of course, after the president. Guarded all day, every day. And a person like me I eventually got FBI approval, security clearance to run the machine. And sometimes people would say, above my head would say, this one is for the Autopen or this one is for his real signature. And sometimes I made those decisions.
And what kind of things came across your desk for the Autopen to sign?
It's hard to talk about that, but of course, we preserve the illusion that everybody's letter was signed by the president. But a lot of birthday notes, a lot of messages to people who might be opening a business, maybe, or sometimes notes to people at funerals. It was really dependent on what was going on that day and who needed a response to a letter that we had received. We used to say, does President Clinton read all of his mail, every letter? And I would always say, he gets about 7,000 a day. And that's the answer.
You needed authorization for each use, correct?
Yes, but I also had that authorization. But sometimes somebody above my head would say, this one is okay for the pen, or make sure the president sees this one. So there was never a formula or never any sort of attempt to standardize it. It was very literally what was going on that day and who had written in and what kind of a response they needed. Some people would say, can I get my baseball signed, or can I get my memorabilia signed? That was a don't, because very literally we couldn't get it on the machine.
Right. And this is out of your lane, but the courts have upheld the use of Autopen to sign legislation. It can be used at the president's discretion, correct?
That's correct. All that legislation, of course, happened after I left, but we used to illustrate the power of the pen. We would say it can do anything from sign checks to declare war.
Right. And did the authorization come through the president, the chief of staff, or someone a little bit lower that on the food chain?
If you're talking about daily, I had the authority to do that. The last word was with me. People would say, oh, I need this birthday note to go to fill in the blank. And then I would authorize the use of the pen. When I was hired, then I went through, of course, a secure, very rigid security check, rather, and before I moved up to being able to authorize the pen. And the interesting fact about it is my signature had to go on file with the FBI. So somewhere in all of that is a JRS.
Jack Schock with the do's and don'ts of the presidential auto pen. I appreciate your time, sir.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.